A very good evening to our viewers across ASEAN who is tuning in for the first time to watch our broadcast on You Are Not Alone, live. And today we have a very special guest with us, which is, I would like to introduce Miss Alyannah Lagasca, the Secretary General for Youth for Mental Health Coalition, Philippines, the Vice President for the 12th National Youth Parliament, the Chief Operations Officer for Siklab, Pilipinas. With this, let's put our hands together for Miss Alyannah.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you tonight. I hope you get to learn a lot from our discussion.
Thank you, Yana. So I'm your host for tonight, Hugo, from the Rotaract 1 ASEAN, representing over 7 countries across ASEAN, where we have just launched during these challenging times the YANA project, which is You Are Not Alone, which is an ASEAN-level mental health initiative that goes from not just from information, but right down to action, giving you the opportunities to call in if you are distressed, to give you the workshops conducted by experts such as Ms. Alyannah over here with us, and also live streams in order to reach as many people as possible during this pandemic. So without further ado, I would like to dive straight right into it. So Ms. Yana, which bears the same name as our project, we just had a chuckle about it. Yeah, talk about timing. I think this is a conversation whose time has come. And we both agree earlier that it's really unfortunate that it took a pandemic for this to come to the front lines, for people to realize that mental health cannot be ignored, that health cannot be without first having mental health. So, Miss Yana, what do you think about the current pandemic and how has it been affecting mental health across ASEAN?
Thank you for your question, Hugo. Actually, right now, I think we need to realize and understand, accept that the pandemic is a natural stressor. But then stress is actually normal. So it's our reaction to situations, events, even people that we experience in our daily lives. The thing is, when we talk about mental health, it also tackles about us being able to cope up with these problems so that we're still productive members of the society, even though we experience difficulties. So this pandemic, we actually we are opened up to the different rotten systems, in our government, etc., in our healthcare system. And we were, since we were opened up to these difficulties, I hope not just today, not just now during the pandemic, but afterwards, we hope that we get to streamline mental health promotion and really strengthen the healthcare systems, not just in the Philippines, but the whole of ASEAN. Based on WHO study, global prevalence of depression, it's in the ASEAN region actually that there's a high risk of depression worldwide. That's why it's really important that us here in the region, we realize that mental health is something that we need to prioritize. As well as, if you have heard, no studies can back this up, but we also feel different difficulties because we are quarantined, maybe we lost some loved ones, and of course, there's a surge of different overwhelming emotions right now, which also affects our mental well-being. I also do hope that right now, we get to realize that physical health and mental health are as equally as important. You can't be physically healthy if you're not mentally healthy, and you cannot be mentally healthy if you're not physically healthy. So the pandemic gave us these realizations, and hopefully, even though we get to have the vaccine for COVID-19, and we rise above this challenge. We are able to strengthen the systems for mental health promotion, service delivery.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Yana, for raising important questions. In fact, I think this is like the opportunity to really talk about mental health, and especially the work that you have been doing for so long, where we realize that when we really need help, especially mental health help, the system that is in place could be better. Like what you say, government agencies, NGOs, and in fact, the general population should work together. And here I would like to, just to give the context for our viewers tonight. If you are watching this, I'm seeing like probably 20, 30 people that is watching our live right now. I would like to congratulate you for joining us and Ms. Yana tonight to talk about mental health, to normalize the conversations. And if you are watching this, do remember to drop your comment below so that Ms. Yana knows that you are here. You can say hi. If you have a question on mental health, we welcome it. Write it below. We will get back to you as soon as possible. All right, Ms. Yana. Just to give a context for our viewers, the World Health Organization says that 1 in 5 people across the globe suffer from mental illness at some point in their life. If you think about this, 1 in 5 people, that is like 20% of the global population. We are talking about 1 billion of people that have came in contact with some sort of mental trouble or disorder. Now, here's a crazy question, right, Ms. Yana? If there are 1 in 5 people that suffer from mental illness, why is it that if we go randomly to the street and ask someone, do you know anyone around you that is currently suffering from it? They had a hard time answering that. Why is that so, Ms. Yana? Why are we not aware?
We are not aware, basically, it's because of the stigma around this one. It's embedded in the society. Actually, while preparing for this session, I was checking up on the healthcare systems of the different ASEAN member countries, member states, and I realized that even though some actually do have mental health laws, which started in 2007, 2014, there was none in the 10 member states that actually prioritize mental health. And it's saddening because if we prioritize mental health, it's the only time that people will get to realize and understand what it is really. And along the way, we'll be able to end the stigma and the discrimination on mental health. So I think because it was not really prioritized and people don't really understand it, is the reason why only a few can answer that question you asked.
Indeed, I think we are not even talking about the treatment and the systems in place, but just in pure awareness. The level of awareness is simply not prevalent. There is this joke, right, that we talk about. If someone have a toothache or fever, people around them would, hold their hands and say, come, let's go to the clinic. Let's get some diagnosis and get treated. But if you say you are having some sort of bipolar or panic attack or depression, people around you will tell you, just be strong, just be positive, just let it go, just man up, And if you tell someone that you are clinically diagnosed with mental illness, not only they would not help you, they will run away. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Ms. Yana?
That's actually the problem because since we don't understand about it, we don't know what to say to someone who's diagnosed to have a mental difficulty. At the same time, because we don't know anything about what they are really feeling, and since they can't really express what they are experiencing, we don't have the answers on how we can give advice to them. But really, for us, Youth for Mental Health Coalition, what we always say is that your presence is really essential. You don't need to give advice to someone, especially if you don't know the right words to use. Instead, you just need to be there, like an empathic listener, because sometimes those who are feeling mental health difficulties just want someone to talk to. They don't really ask for advice, since they also know that whatever they're feeling is not the same as they would how someone else would feel it if we translate it to them.
Thank you, Ms. Yana. I think Ms. Yana raised an important point, which is we thought that the people around us who are suffering from mental illness or challenges, we assume that because we are not therapists, we are not psychologists, we are not counselors, that we have nothing to offer to them. But sometimes what they really need is a listening ear and a support system around them, that makes them have the courage to actually seek out help. I think that's the reason why we started a project, which surprisingly is your name. You are not alone. About right now is like coming to July, so it's about like 3 months ago we came to this idea. So we first kickstarted what we call a listening project, which is a You Are Not Alone listening project, where people can fill in a form and state what kind of challenges they have, whether it's in a relationship, in business frustrations, in depression, in school, and things like that. And we will match them with a assigned listener or a qualified professional in order to give them a listening ear and a platform, because everyone is staying at home. They can't go out and reach out to a professionals or listener. So we go to them, right? That's the idea. Perhaps, Ms. Yana, you can share with us a bit about what are some of your work that you have been doing in Youth for Mental Health Coalition, some of your experiences in the streets, dealing with mental health.
Yes, actually, right now we have a 4-part COVID-19 response program, because we also saw that well, while mental health is not just restricted to mental health professionals, since it's a topic about health, which we should be participating in. We made a 4-part project program to help those who are having difficulties, especially that Philippines is in quarantine. So number one, we have a project. It's called Project Hilom. Hilom means like Hilom means like so difficult to translate.
Challenge, of translation. Just give us a close one,
Project
example.
Hilom is actually it's a support group for different members of the organization and non-members of the organization. Wherein we have a session like once a week, and we discuss anything, like about anything that the members of the group wants to discuss. Why? Because right now it's very important to build social relationships. May it be romantic, familial, apprenticeship, and platonic. Right now, we saw that one way to actually help in our mental well-being is to forge social relationships. So we made Project Hilom as a support group wherein the members can discuss anything that they want to discuss, and probably even, be support systems for everyone. Second is we have Project Tulay. Tulay is literally a bridge. Tulay, because right now our service users, they have a problem with procurement of mental health medicines, since we are on quarantine. So what we do is that we partner up with the Department of Health and the National Center for Mental Health and other institutions, wherein we can get cheap, affordable, and even free medicines. Then we deliver them to our service users. Next is we have Buklod, or let's just say like solidarity. What we do is that we have webinars like these, and we engage our social media platforms so we can educate, we can give awareness, at the same time can deliver service. Then lastly, we have Project Lingap, or it is a donation drive because in the first few months of the quarantine, the National Center for Mental Health, it is actually a service facility, had cases of positive COVID-19 patients. Had cases of patients with positive COVID-19. Okay, so we pooled donations for them for essentials and even for the frontliners inside the institution. So those are just some of the projects that we are doing right now, apart from capacity building trainings, because we understand that since there's a scarcity in human resource of mental health professionals, it's very important to empower also the probable support systems like your local government unit, the local here, because here in the Philippines we have Sangguniang Kabataan. It's our youth leaders in the locality. So we are also brewing up a program for them. And of course, we talk to different members of the family so that mental health promotion and the service and deeper understanding starts in the home.
Thank you for sharing. I think we have warmed up enough, and the viewers are coming in. So once again, I'm Hugo Tan from Road 1 ASEAN, and joining us tonight is Miss Alyannah Lagasca, which is the National Secretary General for Youth for Mental Health Coalition. And tonight, our goal is very simple, is to normalize conversations around mental health. So if you're watching this, you can do your part too by sharing this video out, by starting a watch party and commenting, getting your friends to comment, what are their questions that they have in their mind. Because today we have someone who has been working in the field for quite some time to help you offer, a perspective to tackle your questions. So without further ado, I think we have come to our exciting round, which is debunking the myth. So I will state one myth, and Miss Alyannah will offer her opinion, or whether she agree or disagree, or agree but, So here we go. Let's start with something simple. If someone have mental illness, it means that they are crazy. What do you say?
Of course not. Actually, it's really just about coping up with the difficulties that you experience every day. So it's not about being crazy, but rather, I hope we don't label them, because labeling them is casting them out of the society. So having a mental health problem is actually just a problem on how you cope up with your normal stressors.
All right. So there you go. Don't label them. What Ms. Yana says is don't label them. Give them a chance to get treatment. Okay. So myth number 2. Getting mental health treatment is expensive.
This is a very difficult question. Actually, if you check on all the ASEAN member states, we actually have a problem on human resource when it comes to mental health. So even here in the Philippines, we only have quite a few. And that's the reason why mental health treatments are expensive. In other member states, we don't have, it's not integrated in the healthcare system. Some others, mental health services are integrated, but it's not the priority of the government. That's why services are really expensive. That's also the reason why we try to educate everyone so that it won't come to that point that we need to get treatment. Since mental health professionals are, since our human resource is scarce and the services are not readily available, then it would be better if we build communities of care instead. So we won't have a problem. We won't be, well, at least we can avoid going to that extent level of care.
Well said. I think if something is expensive, it actually prevents people from getting the help because they wonder if they can afford it. And there is a great need for more mental health professionals, whether you are counselors or a therapist. So for those of you who are watching this right now, with me, Hugo, and of course Miss YANA over here, if you are ever thinking whether going into mental health, going into psychology, guidance, and counseling is worth it, it definitely is. We need more of you, to come in and join in, to make this possible. So let's go to myth number 3. If someone is diagnosed with mental illness, they are not fit to work.
Actually, here in the Philippines, it's we already have a department order under the Department of Labor and Employment, wherein we are not to discriminate any employee that has a mental health disorder or challenge. So not because you are diagnosed to have a mental health problem doesn't mean that you can't be productive anymore, or you can't do the work that you need. Of course, there can be some time that you will have challenges, but if you get the proper care that you need, it's just normal anyway. That's why mental health is not really something that we need to treat like something special. It's just normal, and I hope that's how we realize it. Not because we have a mental health disorder doesn't mean we are special amongst others. It's just that we need a specific care for how we are feeling.
I think that's a good one. I think especially when there are legislation in place, to actually protect people that are being diagnosed with mental illness. Of course, I believe they will see, what level of mental illness that we are talking about, what degree of it, and I think for most of it, everyone is just as fit to work. And many times when we talk about someone is mentally ill, doesn't mean they are chronically ill. Everyone have some degree of mental challenges that they are struggling with. People just don't realize this. It seems that some of us actually felt that sometimes when we stigmatize, someone with a mental illness, without realizing that we ourselves might have it too, to a certain degree. Okay, so let's go to before we go to the next myth, right, Miss YANA? Again, for our viewers, because we have been talking for like 20 minutes, but I think for newcomers to our live stream, they are very fresh to what is mental health and mental illness. Can you maybe help us to define, when we talk about mental illness, how big is this scope? What are some of the disorders that you are talking about?
Hello, sorry. Can you repeat that?
Hello?
Sorry, my line is
sure.
getting unstable.
This is actually another ASEAN common problem. The line.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, when we are talking about mental illness, how big is the scope that we are talking about? What kind of examples of mental illness or disorders that are more common that people can relate to?
Actually, it all includes psychiatric, developmental, and neurologic concerns. It can be from depression, anxiety disorder, to schizophrenia. We have actually classifications on that, and I'm really hoping we get to study them all more, so we get to classify. But definitely mental health is a state of your wellness, not just about these disorders. It doesn't equate to the disorders. Actually, when we talk about mental health, it is your state of well-being, wherein the normal stresses of your lives, you are able to cope up with them. And at the same time, while coping up with them, you become a productive member of
Mm-hmm.
the society, and your responsibilities, you are able to fulfill them. So mental health doesn't really equate to mental illnesses, and I hope everyone understands that, because a lot of us, we don't talk about health because they think it would be it's about depressions, about anxiety, all the negative stuff, and all the stigma and discrimination surrounding it. So um, it's really great to emphasize that mental health is for all. It's as equally important as your physical health. It affects various aspects of our lives. And at the same time, when we dig deeper on mental illnesses, let us all remember that they can be treated and prevented all at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you once again to Miss Yana, and especially when you say that actually it's quite a wide range, to be fair. You know, there are many types of different mental illness, and I think what we are planning to do with You Are Not Alone project is to have experts like Yana and her team, you know, to actually do specific workshops to tackle specific issues. 1 week, especially in this coming Saturday, we're actually having a workshop on stress management. And then going forward, we will have different workshops, you know, to tackle anxiety, to tackle if you have suicidal thoughts, you know, what can be done. You know, a lot of times the question is what can be done? What are the best practices? What are the helplines available? You know, people don't know that, and we have to get this message out. And I also like that you mentioned, Miss Yana, about how they can still become productive member of the society. In fact, right here in Malaysia, yeah, by the way, for the rest of the ASEAN, right here, I'm actually in Malaysia talking to Miss Yana in Philippines, made possible by the great advancement of technology, you know, and live to all of you. So yeah, so happy to have all of you here. If you are from any of the other ASEAN country, do drop a shout out in the comment below. Let us recognize you. We'd like to know how many ASEAN countries have actually joined us tonight. We actually have enterprise that are run by, for example, we have a cafe that is run by autistic youths, so entirely run by them. I think it's not so much about making a statement, but it's to also, you know, create the awareness. Media will surely pick it up, and they will say like, okay, a whole group of autistic youth working in a cafe. What is autism? And then people, you know, have the interest to know more about it. Can you share with us a bit about how is the situation in Philippines?
Actually,
Any
also,
story or case?
yeah, actually, you also have establishments here. One is actually run by my batchmate in high school. I'm really, really proud that she engaged into that. There's a cafe also that employs uh, persons with autism. So there's a restaurant as well who employs persons with autism, and of course there are also a lot of other establishments now that provide opportunities for people living with mental health difficulties. What I'm really proud for the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines right now is that we are able to embrace that, but not all, of course, but well, baby steps. We'll get there. And of course, we had our law signed in 2018, although um, it hasn't been really rolled out yet. But groups, civil society organizations, professional organizations, the academe, and other non-government organizations are working on it as we try to um, give priority to our mental well-being.
All right. I think I just lost a bit towards the end, but I got your gist of your sharing. I'm proud about the kind of progress that is being made across ASEAN, especially in the Philippines. I think your audio just now, kind of lost it. So yeah, Miss Yana, you can have a check. But overall, I think Philippines have great community spirit, and when people really want to do something, they really band together and make it happen. So I think this is the kind of community spirit that we want, to be seen across ASEAN, so that more people are willing to participate in causes that matter. Right now, I would like to give a few shout out to our viewers. Just now we asked about who is here. So we see that Feng Chen from Malaysia. Welcome. Yeah, we'll be picking your question. And Eddie is watching from Myanmar. Great shout out to the great land of Myanmar. Welcome. Great to see, all these countries across ASEAN are coming together for such an important conversation. Of course, right now we are conducting it in English, but we hope that you are able to translate this and to share your own stories. Later our team will post a link in the comment below on how you can get on to volunteer as a caller or a listener, so that you can participate in something, for the better of all. Okay, so let's pick a question. Feng Chan says that, is long-term stress a disorder? What do you say, Yana?
Actually, it's not really stress because, as I've said earlier, stress is just your reaction to situations, events, people in your life. So maybe when we talk about long-term sadness, it becomes depression. But then let's all realize that depression, feeling down or sad doesn't always equate to depression. It is also not a choice, or it's not really feeling weak or being overly sensitive about situations, but rather it is persistent sadness that is like around 2 weeks to even months and years.
All right, so Miss Lim, hopefully Miss Yana have answered your question. I think a lot of people are concerned about where do we draw the line between stress and depression. How do we diagnose this? How do we know if someone have depression or just a regular stress?
Actually, it's not stress and depression. It's sadness and depression. So that's actually what we need to think about, because as I've said earlier, stress is just normal. It's your body's reaction. It's not actually you being depressed or anxious or anything related to that. It's always sadness and depression. When you feel sadness, persistent sadness that happens more than 2 weeks, and even feel signs of loss of interest, probably sleeping for too long or not sleeping at all, those are probable signs of depression.
Thank you for sharing the highlight. Is between sadness and depression, and we have to be alert of the kind of symptoms that surface, that might point to something, right? Okay, and we have another question. This one is from Philippines itself. So we have Amina Shane from Philippines. The question is, how do you handle people who are mentally ill, who are already draining your energy, but you are afraid to tell them? How do you set boundaries? How do we help such people? Ms. Yana?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. I mean, actually, what we can do is number one. Amina asked me the most difficult question, I think.
Yeah.
So, for me, I think there's always a boundary between
Mm-hmm.
helping someone else and helping yourself. It's really important about that you're able to help yourself first, because you can't help someone else if you don't. It's just like you can't give anything that you don't have, anyways. So when it comes to that situation wherein you are exhausted helping someone else, it's not, you shouldn't be guilty to stop. You shouldn't be guilty to actually remove your remove the negative stimuli in your life. Although, of course, it's really important that we understand the mental health illness first, because we can, if we do understand what he or she is going through, we get to know about how we take care of them, how we treat them, or how often do we expose ourselves to them. It's not just about you cutting the ties, but you understanding if you need to cut the ties. So there, I hope I answer your question, because there are some illnesses
Mm-hmm.
wherein you just need to check up at which level of care they need to be taken care of. Then that's the time you can probably plan on how you engage with them. And there are some illnesses that if you can't really take how uh, they are treating you, then it's about time to, I think, best time to let it go,
Mm.
because you how you are is really important, so that you can manage to help other people as well.
Thank you once again, for the comment. I think this is actually in a lot of people's mind, because they are generally kind people who try to help some of your friends around them. But then it just get so hard, right? Because sometimes when
Mm.
someone is suffering from something, mm, they put their guard up, and then sometimes it's really difficult to help them. Like what you say, right? If you don't help yourself first, it generally, it affects more people in the chain. Okay.
Yeah, Hugo, also I want to point out that care is
Yeah.
two-way. Taking
Mm,
care is two-way, so it can't be just you taking care
mm,
of them. They should equate that as well.
mm-hmm. True. True. The line between loving others, and also you got to love yourself a bit sometimes. Okay.
All of
I'm
the
actually
time.
watching questions coming in. Yeah, definitely, all the time. Self love. I think that's also the if we talk about the rise of abuse cases during this pandemic. You know, where people are at home, and then hotlines. In Thailand, in Malaysia, we are seeing a spike in abuse cases, in bullying. Maybe you can share with us a bit about the psychology of the abuser and the abuse. Why does this happen so often? Any particular
Actually,
reasons behind?
actually, there are a lot of factors affecting that one. That's why it's very difficult at this time, because well, even here in the Philippines, our domestic violence cases are rising, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, the problems inside the homes, we can't really tell uh, when it will strike or how it will strike, right? So um, the problem lies in there, that right now we have no other choice but even to be with our triggers inside the homes. That's why what we do is that we try to educate and train the families so that they can make a safe space for the house can be a safe space for everyone. We can Sorry, I don't really have the study about it, and I can't
Mm-hmm.
really tell about how all of these are happening inside the homes, but the one way wherein we can help prevent these is by educating and by even giving trainings to people inside the house, the families, as they
Mhm.
are our supposedly our support system.
I think we are getting interesting. We have more questions coming in. All right, let's pick this one then. This one is from Rajov from Malaysia. Is anxiety disorder a cause by itself or a consequence of our lifestyle? How can we prevent this anxiety from affecting our life? What do you say? Yeah.
It can be, it can be because of your lifestyle. So it's really important how we maintain mental health hygiene. Some practices, we also have some practices like calm breathing, uh, mindfulness, and meditation can also help us stay calm. At the same time, it's really important how
Mhm.
you surround your what kind of environment you surround
Mhm.
yourself in, because all of those
Mhm.
are will affect your mental well-being.
You raise an important point, which is on the mental health hygiene. Can you elaborate a bit more on it? Like, what do you mean by mental health hygiene? What are the
Mm.
common practices? How can someone do it?
Okay.
Mhm.
When it comes to that, well, since for the 8 dimensions of wellness, we have social and
Mhm.
emotional, wherein it's really affected by the relationships we build. So it's really important what kind of relationships you build. On another note, probably talking to someone who is very close to you, who validates your feelings, improves your self-esteem, contributes to your self-worth, encourages you to have a healthy lifestyle behavior, and of course, our empathic listeners can also help in maintaining good mental health. Um, Another note, it's also important that you engage into self-care. How you will do self-care, there's no general technique for everyone. So you can watch a movie you like, you can um, exercise, probably 30 minutes to 1 hour daily. You can read a book or anything that would make you feel better also. And then it's also important that we sleep at night. Sleep hygiene is another issue that we need to talk about, but we need to realize that sleep is very important, not just
Mhm.
because it helps you grow, but also because it makes you more focused in the morning, and it comes your other uh, it fixes other
Mhm.
biological
Issues? Yeah,
processes in
true.
your
Yes.
body. Yeah. So those are just some
Uh,
tips on how you can maintain good mental well-being.
I think young people that are watching this, we are definitely not sleeping enough. uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. In fact, just the other night, I have a long call, right into the midnight. We are definitely not the early sleepers type of people. Life is so interesting.
Yes.
Okay, Eddie. Mental health hygiene. Interesting. Interesting. So some feedback for Miss Yana. Okay, I think we are coming into new territory. Let's see what are the questions, right? We have a question like this from the Philippines. Like if you have a guy that you liked and he has problems, I'm not sure what problems, and you can't remove your ties from him? How do we tackle that? How do we professionally distance ourselves from someone? Like you have suggested. Even if you want to love yourself, but how do you do it in a good way?
Are you guys into a relationship?
I
Well,
think now you are the relationship expert as well.
that's a very hard question because the
Oh.
answer will come from the person experiencing it, really. It's just that what I want this person to know is something that destroys you is something that shouldn't be in your life. Or at least to me, that's how I that's how I view that's a principle. That's why if
Mm-hmm.
my relationship may be romantic or platonic,
Mm-hmm.
I cut them if they are destroying me and they are not contributing to my wellness. On how
I
you would
think
do it,
mm-hmm.
that's another question. Very difficult one since
Mm-hmm.
it really depends on how you think and how you act.
Mm. I think when it comes to, at the end of the day, we kind of come to a point where we realize sometimes mental health or mental illness, it is not just a personal question, it affects the people around us. And people
Definitely.
around us could be affected. And largely, it's hard because we are talking about the impact on our relationships. Perhaps that is one contributing factor to the stigma, and one contribution factor why is it so hard for people to get treatment. Why is it so hard for people to acknowledge it? Because they realize that if they acknowledge it, they will have to do something with it, like answering the question on how to distance yourself from someone that you care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Miss Yana has actually raised a lot of key points. Like at the end of the day, we need to have boundaries, healthy boundaries. Like this is I love you. This is how much I can love you. But beyond that, I have to think twice, in order to preserve my own sanity. It can't
Yeah,
be
that's
one
correct.
person is mentally ill, ended up with 2% that is mentally ill. That's not helping the cause. Okay, I think we have go from relationship issue to I have experienced that before. Thank you for asking. Yeah, feedback are coming in. Okay, yeah, we have another one. Yeah, I love Philippines. They are so passionate about their questions. How do you keep sane and strong for your family when everything's not working out? What do you
Mhm.
say you have had enough and you rely on so much? Oh, okay. All right. This is a question from a Janie, youth advocate of Philippines. Basically, how do you keep sane and strong for the sake of your family when everything's not working out? So let's say if you are
Mm.
very stressed about something, very anxious about something, you cannot just hide yourself, right? You are still among people. So how do we deal with it, Jan?
Well, it's okay to not be okay, anyways. So when you feel like you're lonely, feel the emotion. If you're happy about something, then celebrate that victory, celebrate that feeling. But what really matters is how you get up from it, how you cope up with it, how you manage it. So if you feel like right now you can't function the whole day because you feel lonely, sad, worried, or anything related, then don't don't pretend like you don't feel anxious. It's really recognizing your feelings at that time, so that when you recognize the feeling, you'd be able to check up on how you can work your way out of it.
Well, thank you for the feedback. And for all of you who are watching this, you have been joining us for the past 45 minutes. Miss Yana and I really appreciate for you to participate in this conversation, to ask all those important questions, Yeah, don't keep them to yourself, You can only keep them so much until you break down. So let it out, talk to us. There are workshops available. There are listeners available, Our volunteers will share with them in the comment right below soon. So we would like to take on another question. I think there are some shout out from Julian Hayana, Julian Adik. And all right, so there we go. We have another question. How do we know if someone who is mentally ill is being manipulative already?
Okay. Sadly, I'm not a mental health professional to really talk to you about the science on that. But what I can say about that question is that when someone else is making you do something out of your will or out of your principles and non-negotiables, then I do think you should comply. Such difficult questions.
I think this is the what is the feeling, from the ground, and this is just from less than an hour live sessions. We can just imagine how many hidden questions out there, that people never dare to ask, and they have no one to ask. So that's why we will have YANA and her team back, for more workshops in order to help you, to give you a safe space that you can voice your concerns. Okay, let us pick up another question. Oh yeah, just to follow up on the question just now on how does someone who is mentally ill now becoming borderline manipulative. I think for psychology major, you could probably have chanced upon something called the dark personality triad. There are people that are narcissistic, Machiavellian, or they are basically psychopath. That's like the dark triad that you want to avoid. So yeah, you all could read out on that. What are the personality traits? So these are the people that perhaps we can be more aware and be careful of. Okay, let me see. Yeah, keep your questions coming. Keep your questions coming. I'm reading them right away. So just a bit of recap, for our new viewers, there are some that are joining in. Perhaps you just got the link. Welcome on board. So with Alyannah, we have talked about the various mental health initiatives across ASEAN, which is the member of, 10 country member alliance. And in Road Track 1 ASEAN, and of course in Youth for Mental Health Coalition, we are doing a lot of work behind the scene where we try to come together to normalize the conversations regarding mental health. So if you are watching this with your friends, we'd like to thank you. And if you can help us to share it, we'll be even more appreciative of you. And we have been tackling questions on the myth of mental health, and mental illness. People believe that getting treated is expensive. People believe that if you say you are ill, you will not be fit to work. You will be ostracized by your society, And the crazy thing is there's so many questions that came in just now, sounded a lot like relationship questions. And it just, give us this idea that perhaps one of the challenge of why people are not honest about their mental condition is because of how it will impact the relationships around us. So we would like to welcome Grace. Grace, thank you for joining. Michelle, Nanik from Indonesia, Lydia, and Susan too. I think a couple of Rotarians, Christina, Andrea, me too, yes. And all the way from India, I think we are definitely reaching across ASEAN. And let's pick one from Indonesia. Okay. Nanik says that, how can we hold our emotions when someone who wants to tell us about their problem while we are not in a good mood? We are not in the mood to listen, to counsel. So how do we deal with that?
It's important also that the person, the other person knows about how you're feeling. I mean, if you are not in the mood to listen to them, then it would be very difficult to send a message across. Like, if you are not in the mood to talk, then probably tell them right away so they won't expect anything else. And at the same time, it's really important that we are honest about how we feel as well.
I think that hopes it answer your question from Indonesia. I'm just so surprised, man. I mean, all the questions are some sort about how we to relate to another person and where to set the boundaries. It just came in so many different forms, but it's essentially the same question that we are tackling.
Exactly.
It's good progress. We're getting to the heart of it.
Well, it's because our relationships really affect our mental well-being. That's one.
True.
That's why we need to really cultivate, maintain, build relationships that are with someone else that would make us less worried about that. And of course, it's also good that we stay kind to ourselves and to them also, because whatever we speak of and whatever we act on affects how they probably think about themselves and how they think about you.
True. I think it's very well said about the cycle on how we affect one another. Sometimes we are not very careful about what we say and do, on how it actually hurts someone. And sometimes you never know that you have actually hurt someone, but it just stay in that person's mind. Just like how sometimes when parents, give discouraging remarks to their children, they never think so much about it, right? But their children remember that and it's scar for life, Same thing, in teachers and students and even among friends, how we affect one another. We have to be very careful. All right, we have another questions. Keep coming, keep pouring in. So we are all aware that there is stress and there is eustress, beneficial stress, right? Well, let's put it this way: not all things that are beneficial are not painful at all. So how do we draw the line between good stress and what people would call bad stress? How do we differentiate that?
Whatever the effect to you may be, if it's positive, if its effect is positive, then that's good. And if it's negative, the effect is negative, then that really is bad. But then it really matters on how you manage it somehow, because sometimes there are good stresses that for some people maybe they may be able to manage it wrongly. So how we put a boundary on that, how we really differentiate is different for everyone else, because we have different management skills, etc. So if there's really something that there's a skill that you want to enhance, to improve, it's really how you manage your emotions, how you manage these normal stresses. In that way, you'll be able to check also how you would act upon a situation in your life and you would know also how to react on these people, situations, and events.
Thank you for sharing. So at the end of the day, I think what Miss Yana is trying to say is, we evaluate whether something is good or bad, based on the um, effect that it has on our life. But at the same time, whether the effect is good or bad, it really depends on how we see it and how we manage it. How you can turn something good or bad, depends on your emotional regulation, on how you can flip the script and make it something good. Okay, so now we are coming into the darker topics. What are some of the strategies, to veer away from our suicidal tendencies? So now we are talking about suicide now. Yeah. So what do you say, Yana?
Okay, so number one is to really find that support system, people that you can trust, people that won't tell you that your whatever you're feeling is invalid. And when you get to find the support network, it's always good to talk to them about your tendencies, your ideation. Then afterwards, we need to, as support system for these people, we need to study on it more. We need to put emphasis really on communicating with them, because some who are having suicidal tendencies tend to really cut themselves out of the picture. So as support system, it's really important to check up on them most of the time and be with them, because sometimes they just feel alone. That's why they feel this way. So really important also that you listen without bias, without prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not because they're feeling different from how you are, doesn't mean that their emotions are something that you have to dismiss. So
That is actually very nice when you say listening without prejudice. Again, things that looks very common sense is very uncommon.
yes, that's
People,
true.
yeah, I mean, Miss Yana, people are just listening with the intent to reply straight away. And I think the challenge is
Sometimes you
also
don't
because,
need to reply.
yeah, exactly. They just need someone
Sometimes
to
you just need to
listen.
listen. Yeah.
Mm,
I
yeah.
mean, when we try to release the negative emotions, sometimes we just want to release
Mm-hmm.
them, but we want someone to celebrate that specific moment with you.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we just really need someone who will listen, not someone who would give advice, especially if that person doesn't really know the right words to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes, silence, listening here as a friend is all someone needs.
Yes.
We are also quick to judge sometimes, and the quicker we judge, the more often we judge, the more fearful of the people around us, to confide in us,
To open up.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, to open up. I also do think that if someone trusts you enough to talk to you, to want you to listen to them, I think it means that you have reached some sort of stage in your relationship as a friend or as a partner, as a colleague. So I think for the viewers out there, you should really treasure that relationship. Sometimes not saying anything is better than saying something wrong.
Yeah, that's true. Presence is the essence. I got that
Hmm.
from another colleague.
Ah, that's quite the quotable quote. We should probably make a lot of infographics on all these quotes. I should post on Instagram or something. Yeah, I will. I will let the rest of the committee know. Yeah, a lot of quotes from Miss Yana tonight. All right. From Philippines, Marion. How can I use distraction to manage difficult thoughts or feelings? What do you say?
How can you use
Use
distraction?
distraction. Yep. To manage difficult thoughts or feelings, or maybe she's having something challenging in her mind. She wants to do something to distract herself from thinking about it. Yeah, is this some kind of practices in place?
Actually, best is to do
Yeah.
something that make you a better version
Mm-hmm.
of yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
some of us, when we can't cope up with our difficulties, some tend to resort to negative coping mechanisms like smoking, drinking, and
Mm-hmm.
other vices out there. So really, if you are having troubles managing these ideas, so it would
Mm-hmm.
be good if you work on practices that will make you a better version of yourself. Like, for example, why not try to enroll in an online course at this time? Maybe you get to learn a lot, or go into baking, perhaps, if you have an oven at home. At the same time, you get to hone your cooking skills, your baking
Good.
skills. And also, you can also resort to probably talking to someone you love, talking to someone close to your heart. In that way, you don't feel alone, and you get to, quote unquote, distract yourself from the negative ideas that you are thinking at the moment. But I won't really say that it should be a distraction, rather a coping mechanism, because a distraction may have a negative connotation.
Correct.
So I hope we take these as our coping mechanism, so that if we brand it as something positive, it will also come out as something positive for us.
Very true. Very true. I love that you mentioned cooking and all, because during this lockdown, there are actually a lot of my friends that started their YouTube channel. They are doing gardening. They are doing cooking. This morning,
Yeah.
I received someone who is done doing gardening. Now he's doing baking cookies, like butterscotch cookies and all. And there is actually one that actually turned into some sort of like a mini cooking celebrity on YouTube, just because of this lockdown. So I think there is this saying that in every adversity, every challenge that you have in your life, it lies an equal seed opportunity, for you to grow from it, to benefit from it. I think this is why it's not just a distraction. It is it's more like rechanneling your energy, your thoughts into something that is productive.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
in the end, if you would like to see this as a distraction, this is a very profitable distraction, if you like to say so. You grow as a person and you make more friends. You found something that you love about. Yeah, in fact, I think I have met someone with ADHD, so they are like hyperactive and all. They realize if they have a bit too much of free time, they tend to do something wrong. So they thought, like, instead of spending time, smoking or doing all the wrong things, drinking a lot and stuff, why not they try to put their focus on something productive,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and he managed to overcome his addiction, just by doing so. You'll be surprised,
Wow,
what you can do, if you try.
congratulations.
Yeah, yeah. How about you yourself, Miss Yana? Have you encountered any stories from your side that you feel like it is like really touching or will be very relatable to our audience for tonight?
Mm.
Mm.
Actually, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder when I was younger. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
lot older now. It was in the time wherein I wasn't able to manage or adapt
Mm-hmm.
the difficulties we experienced inside the family. So it was,
Mm-hmm.
since I was young back then, uh, adapting to something I'm really unfamiliar with was very difficult. It was actually near to impossible. So since it was a very difficult time for everyone, I kept all the feelings to myself because, well, I thought it won't be a good time to discuss it with the other members of the family since they are feeling the same way. Then afterward, when I tried to embrace it more, when I tried to open up to people I trust, it was the time I realized that I can actually rise above it. I can actually do better. So that was the time I engaged to more meaningful and purposeful practices. I went from just about, you know, partying to
Mm-hmm.
actually doing volunteer work for the community. So that
Mm-hmm.
was actually a very life-changing time for me, and I'm really happy that friends and the members of the family really helped me um, battle. At the same time, that's also the reason why I'm in this advocacy, because those years were years of darkness, and I knew how difficult and painful it felt to be closeted and to not be able to express yourself better. So as I move forward with the advocacy on mental health, I always put that experience into mind so that I'll be more motivated as we move forward. At the same time, some members of the
Mm-hmm.
organization are also service users. So we have those a lot of stories also, and we are really happy that some of them. Uh, I know one person from the organization who can actually speak before thousands of people now. Before she had problems speaking out and she had difficulties standing on stage for public speaking, but now she's a very good public speaker. And those are just that is just one story of hope that we see in the
Mm-hmm.
organization. Some others, they have families who have mental health difficulties, and they understood better how to treat them, how to maintain the relationship with them. And I think that is why it's really important to discuss about this. It's really important to mainstream the conversations on mental health because we don't understand something we don't discuss about anyway. So discussing really about mental health conditions, facilitating um, discussions, and even psychological, psychosocial support, psychological first aid, suicide first aid, etc. All of those are really important because if we embraced all of those, that's the only time we get to really um, prioritize this advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the campaign also we're trying to build here in the Philippines. It took us more than 2 decades to have a mental health law, but we were
Wow.
happy because during that time that we are trying to lobby for the mental health law, when
Mm-hmm.
it was in the Congress, all of our congressmen actually voted yes for the law. Like no one said no to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we were very happy that they understood the same reason why we gave them stories for them to realize that this is real. It's really happening. It's not some kind of a
Mm-hmm.
myth. It's not something that we have to neglect. Just something we have to prioritize because it is real and it is our health that we are talking about, not just some issue that won't affect socioeconomical progression, right? To be honest, every citizen's health, may it be physical, may it be mental health, really affects a nation's socio-economical progression. That's why I hope all the member states and even the other nations out there would give priority to mental health.
Thank you. I think that is a very brave, a very inspiring personal sharing by Miss YANA tonight. And I think this is how, like, a survivor become a service leader. You know, sometimes we are undergoing some challenging situations. We should not give out. You know, we should seek help. And someday you might have the opportunity, just like Miss Yana over here, to pay it forward, you know, to help more people that have similar conditions like yourself. And you would have developed the kind of empathy that others might not have, because you understood how hard is it that you have gone through, you know, to become who you are today. And I'm also very,
although I'm not saying that you'll be able to work on it only if you felt it. It's also really opening yourself into the advocacy. Like, if you really want something to be understood, something that if you want to comprehend something, then it doesn't take you really experiencing it, but rather you opening to the idea of learning about it.
True. I think personally I have this issue with OCD. So it's quite not to say it's destiny again that we have this conversation here today. You know, both that of us have suffer from some sort of mental health challenges, and to come together for a conversation that really matters tonight. So as the title of our live stream for tonight is You Are Not Alone. So indeed, for all of you that are watching with us tonight with Miss Yana, we'd like to tell you that you are not alone. Thank you. And let's hope to normalize this conversation to reach out to more people that matter. And for those of you that just joined us, unfortunately, we are really coming to an end, but you can always rewatch this replay. And if all things goes well, we will try to turn this into a more infographics or YouTube videos, shorter ones that you can consume, you know, at your leisure time. And the few of you that just joined in, the reason why we are doing this is the beginning of more live streams and more Zoom workshops. You know, because the experts has been saying that right now we are witnessing a historic wave of mental health problems, great rise in depression, in substance abuse, in addiction, in post-traumatic stress disorder, and even suicide. And we should not run away from this anymore, because mental health is health. It's not like a different thing, you know. It's not some alien, strange thing that we must push aside and talk in a different forum. No, mental health is health. Why are we not talking about it? We talk about fever and dengue and flu, you know, all the time. You know, but when it comes to mental health, we pretend that, oh, that's, you know, some other people problem, you know, not me, I'm healthy. You know, so we got to change the conversation. So I would like to pass the floor back to you, Miss Yana, for one last round. What is your message to our viewers tonight? And what can they expect for this coming Saturday workshop on managing stress? Miss Yana?
Thank you, Hugo. Actually, I have only one message to everyone. It is really, I am proud of you for getting by every day. This pandemic is very difficult for everyone. Number one, because we weren't prepared for it. Second, the systems are not really in place. And lastly, because our future is all uncertain. That's why really getting by every day is something to be proud of. And hopefully, before you go to sleep tonight, celebrate that victory that you did today. It's really, if you were able to be productive, you were productive today. Like, were able to read a book, did some laundry, did the dishes, or even the slightest and the smallest thing that you did today. Uh, be celebrate that before you go to sleep tonight, and hopefully you get to sleep like six at least 6 hours, so you would get that specific rest that you need to be mentally healthy tomorrow. And also, if you're working in your houses, remember to put a division between the place where you work and the place where you sleep, so that you wouldn't get really exhausted. At the same time, there's also time for sleep, time for rest, and time for work. So never forget that one. Lastly, for our organizations and the ASEAN actually has a mental health study. Well, was it a study? No, like a reading on mental health in the ASEAN, but it was established in 2016. So I don't think it would be that essential now, although you can always check up on it so you would understand the mental health law of different ASEAN states. So if you want to check up on that, you can see that on the ASEAN website. But hopefully governments also make mental health a priority, not just in the ASEAN, but all over the world, because it is something that we need to normalize a conversation on. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And on Saturday, we are going to have a Zoom date, a workshop via Zoom, wherein we will discuss about stress management. It will be an interactive workshop, so hopefully you get to enjoy that too. And my other colleagues will be there to facilitate it. So hoping to see you there on Sunday and Saturday, July 4th.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, July 4th. And keep your questions pouring about stress management and coping mechanisms. So thank you. And hopefully you get a peaceful sleep tonight.
Sleep, guys, is important. So from Road 1 ASEAN and the You Are Not Alone committee, we would like to thank Miss YANA, the National Secretary General for Youth for Mental Health Coalition, for joining us this evening. It has been a very fruitful 1.5 hours conversation. We knew it because many of you actually brave enough to ask the questions that matter, really giving a hard time for Miss Yana over here. Yeah, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. So I would like to sum it up with a quote, right? If you are going through a tough time right now, do know that no one of us can go back and start a new beginning, but everyone can start now. You can start some actions today and make a happy ending. So with this, I wish all of you a good night, and I have a healthy mental health, and I will see all of you on this Saturday. Take care, Miss Yana. Take care, everyone. See you. Good night.